There are people in this world who suffer silently while others shine loudly. Adana was one of them. Every morning before Lagos woke up, she was already walking through dusty streets with a tray on her head, selling pure water, bread, anything that could bring money. She was 17, but her eyes carried the weight of 30 years. Her younger siblings wore clean school uniforms because she woke at 4 a.m. to wash and iron them. Her mother ate because Adana skipped meals. Her father watched everything from his corner, too weak to work, too broken to speak. People passed her every day, traders, customers, strangers, but no one really saw her. They saw a girl hustling. They didn't see the dream she buried. They didn't see the scholarship letter she hid under her pillow. They didn't see her crying silently at night, wondering if her life would ever change. Adana was not always this way. 2 years ago, she was the brightest student in her class. Teachers spoke her name with pride. "This girl will go far," they said. She had dreams. Big ones. University. A career. A different life. But dreams are expensive, and her family had no money. When her father's small business collapsed, everything changed overnight. Bills piled up. Food became scarce. Her mother's face grew harder each day. Then the scholarship letter came, a full sponsorship to secondary school, everything paid for. Adana held that letter like it was gold. But that same evening, her father collapsed. His legs gave out. The doctors said he needed rest, treatment, money they didn't have. Adana looked at the letter, then at her father's tired face. She folded it quietly and hid it away. Her mother stood at the doorway, arms folded, eyes cold. "Your father cannot work anymore," she said flatly. "This house needs someone strong now." Adana nodded slowly, knowing what was coming. "You are the oldest," her mother continued. "You are now the man of this house." Those words landed heavy. Adana was just 15 then, but childhood ended that night. Her younger brother, Chidi, still played football after school. Her sister, Ngozi, laughed with friends and painted her nails. But Adana? She became the foundation everyone stood on. The next morning, she didn't complain. She didn't cry in front of them. She simply woke up earlier than usual, picked up a tray, and walked into the chaos of Lagos. Her father watched from the window, tears rolling silently down his face. He whispered something no one heard. "They will regret this." Adana returned to her school one last time. Not to attend class, just to say goodbye. She stood outside the classroom window, watching her former classmates solve mathematics on the board. The teacher was explaining something, students were laughing, life was moving forward. But not for her. She stood there in the hot sun, gripping the rusty metal frame, her throat tight. One of her classmates saw her and waved. Adana waved back, forcing a smile. Then she turned and walked away. At the school gate, she stopped. She looked down at her black school shoes, the ones she polished every Sunday. Slowly, she bent down and removed them. She held them in her hands for a moment, then placed them gently by the gatepost. Someone else could use them now. Then she walked home barefoot, feeling the hot pavement burn her feet, knowing she would never return. Lagos is not kind to the weak. Adana learned this quickly. The streets were loud, chaotic, and merciless. Traders shouted over each other. Danfo drivers cursed. Customers haggled without mercy. Every day was a battle. She sold pure water in traffic, standing under the scorching sun while car owners looked through her like she was invisible. Some days, rude customers shouted at her for no reason. "Why is this water warm? Are you stupid?" They would bark. Adana would apologize quietly, even when it wasn't her fault. "Sorry, sir. Sorry, ma." She never raised her voice. Never fought back. Even when her body ached and her heart was breaking, she remained respectful. One day, a woman knocked the tray from her hands deliberately. The water bags burst on the ground. Adana knelt down and started picking them up silently. The woman walked away laughing. Still, Adana said nothing. She just wiped her eyes and kept moving. When Adana came home each evening, she brought food, rice, stew, sometimes bread. Her siblings rushed to the table, eating hungrily. Chidi grabbed the biggest piece of meat. Ngozi complained the rice was too small. Their mother sat quietly, chewing slowly, saying nothing. No one said, "Thank you." No one asked if Adana had eaten. She would sit in the corner, watching them, too tired to be angry. One evening, Chidi looked up from his plate and frowned. "Is this all you brought? You were out all day and this is it." Adana stared at him, shocked. Her mother didn't defend her. Ngozi giggled. Adana stood up slowly, walked to the small room she shared with her sister, and lay down on the mat. Her stomach was empty, but she had grown used to that. What hurt more was the silence where gratitude should have been. Her father sat on the old wooden bench outside the house, staring at nothing. He had been like this for months, quiet, distant, broken. He saw everything. He saw how Adana worked. He saw how they treated her. He saw the way her shoulders bent under the weight of a family that took everything and gave nothing back. One evening, as Adana passed by him quietly, he reached out and touched her hand. She stopped. His voice was a whisper, rough with emotion. "They don't see you now," he said, his eyes wet. "But one day, they will see. And they will regret." Adana didn't respond. She just squeezed his hand gently and walked away. Her father sat there long after she left, staring at the ground, wondering how life had turned his daughter into a sacrifice. He couldn't change her fate. That knowledge was killing him slowly. A few weeks later, Adana's old friend, Blessing, found her at the market. Blessing had finished school and now worked for a businesswoman. "Adana, I can help you," she said excitedly. "My madam is looking for a serious girl to train. It's a small shop business, but you can learn and grow. She pays well. You can start next week." Adana's heart jumped. This could be her way out. Finally, something for herself. "Yes," she said quickly. "I'll come." They agreed on a meeting time. Adana felt hope again for the first time in months. But that night, her mother's voice shattered everything. "Adana, your brother needs school fees tomorrow morning. Go and find money now." Adana froze. The meeting with Blessing's madam was the next morning, same time. She had to choose. She looked at her mother's hard face, then at Chidi playing on his phone. Slowly, she nodded. The next day, she missed the meeting. The opportunity was gone. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon when Adana first noticed him. A man, tall, calm, well-dressed but not flashy, stood near her small roadside stall. He didn't look like the usual customers. His clothes were clean, his posture relaxed. He wasn't in a hurry. He just stood there watching. Adana greeted him politely. "Good afternoon, sir. What can I get for you?" He looked at her for a long moment, then shook his head. "Nothing. Just passing by." But he didn't move. He stayed there, observing her as she served other customers. Adana felt uncomfortable but said nothing. After a few minutes, he turned and walked away without another word. She shrugged it off. Lagos was full of strange people. But the next day, he came again. Same spot. Same calm face. Same silence. This time, he bought a bottle of water, paid, and left. Adana watched him go, confused. Something about him felt different. A week later, the man appeared again, this time at the bus stop where Adana waited every evening. He stood a few feet away, not speaking, just watching. Finally, he approached her. "Why do you apologize so much?" he asked suddenly. Adana blinked, confused. "Sir, I've seen you," he continued. "Customers insult you. People cheat you. Yet you remain calm. You apologize even when you're right. Why?" Adana didn't know what to say. "It's just respect, sir. I was raised to be respectful." He nodded slowly, studying her face. Then, without warning, he pulled out a folded bundle of cash and handed it to her. "Take this." Adana's eyes widened. "Sir, I didn't do anything. Just take it," he said firmly. Before she could thank him, he turned and walked into the crowd. Adana stood there, holding the money, her heart pounding. Who was this man? The man became a pattern. He appeared everywhere, at her stall, at the market, near her house. Always watching. Never intrusive. Sometimes he bought something small. Other times, he just stood there silently, observing how she interacted with people. Adana started noticing him before he noticed her. One day, she saw him standing across the street as she helped an old woman carry her load. Another time, he was nearby when a customer tried to cheat her and she still smiled and let it go. He never commented. Never interfered. Just watched. Adana mentioned it to her mother once. "There's a man who keeps appearing near me." Her mother barely looked up. "Is he bothering you?" "No, Ma. He's just there." "Then ignore him. Focus on bringing money home." Adana dropped it. But the man didn't stop coming. And he never told her his name. Adana was selling at her usual spot one afternoon when she overheard two women talking nearby. "You see that man over there?" one of them whispered. "He's that returnee from Canada." Adana's ears perked up. She glanced over. It was him, the same calm man who had been watching her. "I heard he came back to Nigeria to invest," the other woman said. "He's very rich. Very quiet. But sharp." Adana's heart skipped. Canada. Rich. Investor. Suddenly, everything felt different. This was not just some random man. He was someone important. But why was he watching her? She felt nervous now. What did he want? That evening when he appeared again, Adana greeted him differently. More carefully. He noticed. He smiled slightly. "You heard something about me," he said. It wasn't a question. Adana nodded slowly. He didn't explain further. He just said, "Good," and walked away. That night, Adana's world crumbled again. She came home tired, her body aching from standing all day. She placed the money she earned on the table. Her mother counted it, frowned, then looked at her with disgust. "This is all? You were out all day and this is what you bring?" Adana's throat tightened. "It was slow today, Mama." "Useless," her mother shouted. "You sacrifice nothing. We are suffering because of you." The words hit like stones. Chidi laughed from the corner. Ngozi said nothing, just looked away. Adana stood there, frozen, her eyes filling with tears. She wanted to scream. She wanted to tell them everything she had given up. But instead, she turned silently and walked outside. She sat on the ground behind the house and cried until her chest hurt. But the next morning before the sun rose, she was back on the streets. Because that's what she always did. A businesswoman named Mrs. Okonkwo noticed Adana one day. She owned a small fashion shop and saw something rare in the young girl. Dignity under pressure. "I like you," Mrs. Okonkwo said. "Come to my shop tomorrow. I want to mentor you. Teach you business. You're too smart to be suffering like this." Adana nearly cried with joy. This was her second chance. She agreed immediately. But the night before the meeting, her mother called her. "Your sister needs new school shoes. Your brother needs textbooks. Go to the market first thing tomorrow and get them." Adana's heart sank. "But Mama, I have an important meeting." "I don't care about your meeting," her mother snapped. "Your family comes first. Go." Adana obeyed. She missed the appointment with Mrs. Okonkwo. When she finally went to apologize days later, the woman shook her head sadly. "I gave the opportunity to someone else." Another door closed. The man from Canada finally spoke to her properly. He sat down at her stall one afternoon and asked her direct questions. "What do you want in life?" Adana hesitated. No one had ever asked her that. I I just want my family to be okay, sir. And what about you? He pressed. What do you want for yourself? Adana's eyes filled with tears. She had no answer. She had forgotten how to want things for herself. The man watched her carefully, his expression unreadable. Then he leaned forward and said something that chilled her. You are being watched. Adana's breath caught. By who, sir? He didn't answer. He just stood up, left money on the table, and walked away. Adana sat there, her mind spinning. Watched. By who? Why? What did this man know? And why did he care? Adana broke. It happened one evening after another brutal day. Her mother had insulted her publicly in front of neighbors. Chidi had mocked her. Ngozi ignored her. She came home, sat on the floor of her room, and stared at the wall. Her chest felt hollow, empty. What was the point of all this? She had sacrificed everything, her education, her dreams, her future, and still, they treated her like dirt. She thought about leaving. Just disappearing. Going somewhere far from Lagos, far from this family that only knew how to take. Maybe she could start over. Maybe she could finally breathe. But then she looked at her father through the doorway. He was sitting outside, staring at the sky, his face filled with quiet pain. And she knew she couldn't leave him. Not yet. So she swallowed the pain, wiped her face, and told herself, one more day. Just one more day. A week later, something strange happened. Adana received an envelope. It was plain, white, sealed carefully. No name. No return address. Just her name written in neat handwriting. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a single card with an address, a luxury hotel in Victoria Island. Below it, a date and time. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Nothing else. No explanation. No sender. Adana's heart pounded. Was this a trap? A scam? She showed it to her mother. Don't go, her mother said immediately. It's probably those ritualists. They'll use you. Chidi laughed. Who would want you anyway? Adana's father said nothing, but his eyes were watching. That night, Adana couldn't sleep. She held the card in her hands, staring at it. Should she go? What if it changed everything? What if it destroyed everything? She didn't know. But something inside her whispered, go. The next morning, Adana was still undecided. Her mother warned her again. If you go to that place and something happens to you, don't come back here crying. Adana ignored her. She put on her best dress, a simple faded gown she had owned for years, and prepared to leave. Just as she stepped outside, someone was standing there. The man from Canada. He looked at her calmly. You got the invitation, he said. It wasn't a question. Adana nodded, her voice shaky. Did you send it? He didn't answer directly. Instead, he said one word. Go. Then he turned and walked away. That was all Adana needed. She straightened her back, gripped her small bag, and started walking toward the bus stop. Her mother shouted after her, but she didn't look back. Fear gripped her chest, but something stronger pushed her forward. She was going. Adana had never been inside a building like this. The hotel lobby was massive, marble floors, golden lights, soft music playing. She felt completely out of place. Security guards stared at her. A receptionist looked her up and down with judgment. I have an appointment, Adana said quietly, showing the card. The receptionist's expression changed immediately. She made a phone call, then smiled. This way, please. Adana was led down a long hallway to a private room. The door opened. Inside was a large table, comfortable chairs, bottles of water, everything clean and expensive. Please wait here, the receptionist said and left. Adana sat down slowly, her heart racing. She looked around, confused. Why was she here? Who sent for her? Minutes passed. Then the door opened again. And everything changed. 3 well-dressed people entered the room. 2 men and a woman. They greeted Adana politely and sat down. One of them opened a folder and began speaking. "Miss Adana, we've been monitoring you for the past 6 months." Adana's eyes widened. "Monitoring me? Why?" The woman smiled gently. "Everything you did. Every sacrifice. Every time you chose kindness over anger. We documented it all." Adana's mind was spinning. "I don't understand." The man flipped through pages. Photos, notes, dates. Adana saw herself in the pictures. At the market. At her stall. Helping the old woman. Apologizing to rude customers. Her whole life, captured. Who are you people?" she whispered. The woman leaned forward. "We work for someone who has been searching for something very rare. And he found it in you." Before Adana could respond, the door opened again. And he walked in. The man from Canada. He entered the room with calm authority. Everyone stood. Adana's legs felt weak. He sat down across from her and finally introduced himself. "My name is Mr. Emeka Nwosu. I returned to Nigeria 3 years ago after living in Canada for 15 years. I came back with money, with plans, with businesses to build. But I needed something money couldn't buy. Someone with real character." He paused, looking directly at Adana. "I searched everywhere. I interviewed people. I tested many. But everyone failed. They were polite when watched, cruel when alone, respectful for reward, rude without benefit. Then I found you." Adana's heart was pounding. "Why me?" "Because you didn't know anyone was watching," he said. "And still you chose kindness. Still you chose respect. That's rare." He leaned forward. "I chose you." Adana couldn't breathe. "For what?" He smiled. "To change your life." Mr. Emeka explained everything. "I wasn't testing you for a job, Adana. I was testing you for something bigger." He gestured to the people in the room. "These are my team. For 6 months, they followed you. Every morning, every evening. We saw how you treated people. How you honored your father. How you carried a family that didn't appreciate you. And you never broke." He pulled out documents. "I have businesses across Lagos. Importing. Real estate. Retail chains. I needed someone I could trust, not with certificates, but with character. Someone who wouldn't steal. Someone who wouldn't abuse power. Someone who knew struggle and still chose goodness." Adana's hands trembled. "So what happens now?" Mr. Emeka slid a document across the table. "This is yours. A fully registered business in your name. Staff ready. Location set. Funding in place. You will manage it. You will learn. And you will build your future." Adana stared at the paper, unable to speak. They took her through Lagos in a convoy. 3 clean cars, air conditioning, soft seats. Adana pressed her face to the window, watching the city she knew so well suddenly look different. They drove past Oshodi, past the markets where she had suffered, past the bus stops where she had stood in the rain. But now she was inside. Protected. Valued. They stopped in front of a large shop in a busy commercial area. The sign above it read, "Adana's Place, General Merchandise." Her name. Her shop. Staff members stood outside, waiting. Mr. Emeka opened the car door for her. "This is yours. Walk in as the owner." Adana stepped out slowly, her legs shaking. The workers greeted her respectfully. Inside, the shop was fully stocked. Goods, shelves, everything ready. Adana stood in the center, tears streaming down her face. This was real. Her life had just changed. Mr. Emeka sat her down that evening and spoke gently. "Your family," he said. "You owe them nothing. You gave everything. They gave nothing back." Adana looked down, her heart torn. "What should I do?" That is your choice, he said. But I will tell you this. You cannot build a new life while carrying people who only know how to pull you down. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for yourself is walk away. Adana thought about her mother's insults, Chidi's mockery, Ngozi's silence. They had drained her dry and still wanted more. Then she thought about her father, the only one who ever saw her pain. I will take care of my father, she said quietly. But the rest. I need space. Mr. Emeka nodded. Wise. That night, Adana made a decision. She would send her father money for treatment and rent him a small place. But she would not return home. Not yet. Maybe not ever. News travels fast in Lagos. Within weeks, people started talking. You heard about that girl? The one who used to sell pure water? She owns a whole business now. The stories spread, embellished, exaggerated, but rooted in truth. Adana's old neighbors whispered. Her mother heard it from a customer. Chidi heard it at school. Ngozi saw photos on social media, Adana in neat clothes, standing in front of her shop, smiling. They couldn't believe it. Her mother tried calling. Adana didn't answer. Chidi sent messages begging for money. She blocked him. Only her father received help. Quietly, generously, without conditions. He wept with gratitude. Meanwhile, Adana stood in her new life, free and whole. Mr. Emeka watched from a distance, satisfied. And somewhere in that crowded city, a family sat in regret, finally understanding what they had lost. Kindness doesn't always pay immediately, but it never goes unnoticed.